Say your name and a few things about yourself.
Hi, my name is Shanayna Harnage, and I'm a 2011 Kansas City Corps member. I originally from Los Angeles, California, and I am looking to become an aspiring leader of a school in Los Angeles.
After reviewing the video, what do you notice? What were some of the strengths and areas of growth? And what feedback will you give this teacher?
So, after reviewing the video, a few things that I noticed was that the teacher provided an overview of what the students were going to review for that day. And as students transitioned, 100% of students transitioned with minimal to no redirection. So there's evidence of a strong culture of expectations and student ownership within the classroom. Additionally, during the observation, the teacher was very clear with her questioning, asking what degrees form different angles, and students were extremely responsive. All 12 students immediately began to formulate and construct using their string of what that angle or triangle that they were trying to classify at the time. An area of strength for the teacher is that she had created a very engaging way and a very culturally responsive way to engage students in her lesson by allowing them to stand and create and craft and very hands-on for what they're doing, which was reviewing different angles and triangles. An area of weakness was that she did not ask students, those students were able to demonstrate the triangles. They were not asked how and why they were creating these angles in this way. And that leverages to the point of feedback of building a stronger academic ownership culture within your classroom. And an action step to follow that would include that the teacher must include 2 questions within her discussion or within her exit ticket that ask students why or how they determined which angles and triangles that they chose to categorize or utilize.
With that in mind, how do you plan instruction and how do you currently use data to drive instruction?
So how I plan for instruction in the capacity that I serve in now is that I always start with the outcomes and end in mind, and the number one goal being student achievement. And before we can even dive deeply into what that is going to look like, it is crafting a narrative and a landscape using data to see where teachers are, where students are, and what are the gaps that are missing to drive students to their greatest achievement. And that would include looking at student data, looking at teacher performance data, as well as looking at initiatives that we have implemented in the building as a development team, and triangulating that to what are our goals and setting those SMART goals for our teachers, and then taking those SMART goals and breaking them down into actionable steps for teachers to begin to implement in their classrooms so that we are starting to see progress within their academic outcomes for their students.
You named about initiatives. Tell me about the most important initiative you have successfully led at your school, and how did you know it was successful?
The most important initiative that I've led in my school has been the implementation of data, protocols, and analysis, as well as the creation of a data wall. Previously, the school that I serve at had not had in place a way in which they were able to aggregate data and talk about data in ways that were meaningful to their instruction. So an initiative put in place was collaborating with my mentor principal and working to create weekly meetings that we negotiated through the collective bargaining agreement with teachers, where they were fully 100% invested in giving up a planned time every week to meet with administration and working through student analysis. And that included looking at alignment of tasks with students, that included looking at tracking data from a standards-based perspective and not simply letter grades. That also included tracking exit ticket data and informing so that it is able to inform their day-to-day instruction and drive their outcomes for quarterly assessments. And the reason why we know this has been successful is that from 2017 to 18, 2018, 19, we have seen of every quarterly assessment at least a 25% increase from pre to post assessments. And prior years prior to that, we would only see something like between 7% to 11% increase. So we are seeing more and more achievement on ELA, math, and science assessments quarterly based upon based upon teachers' conversations and their understanding of how to utilize the data provided to them.
So, in your opinion, what are the key ingredients in guiding and maintaining successful relationships with parents and teachers? Give examples how you might have made this work in your past.
Some key ingredients to successful relationships with families, parents, and our teachers. One and foremost is love, honesty, listening to understand, and consistency. These sound we say them often, but in action, what they look like is that when we're listening to understand and we love our parents, we understand that our parents are an extension of our students, and if we love our students, therefore we love our parents. And so inviting them into our school, inviting them into our space, and letting it become a collective space where their child can succeed and where they can feel comfortable to advocate for their student as well as collaborate with us to support their student. And with teachers, what that looks like, it's very similar as well, is that we are there to support and develop them in their best capacity to become their best selves for kids. And so that is going to take transparency and consistency, following up, having conversations that may not always be comfortable, but understanding they're coming from a place of, we want you to do better, we want you to be your best and your absolute best, and we are here to support you and listen to you. And oftentimes in leadership roles, we're listening to respond, but we should be listening to understand so that we respond correctly to what the concern is, or what the challenge may be, or what the celebration or question or what they're asking for is correctly addressed.
With that being said, who are you currently responsible for coaching/managing? Tell me about the highest performing teacher and the lowest performing teacher you coach and manage. If we ask them, what would they say about your coaching/managing?
So currently I coach and manage a cohort of 7 teachers. The cohort consists of 3 third grade teachers and 3 fifth grade teachers, as well as a first year, second grade teacher. And of my cohort that I'm responsible for in development, I have one teacher, my third grade teacher, who is in her 3rd year of teaching, and she has demonstrated since my arrival last year a consistent and very strong growth measure in all areas of development, everything from culture of learning to student understanding to essential content and focus. She has consistently taken the small action steps and has moved from a place of directive coaching to a place where she is extremely reflective on her practice, and it is reflective in her student achievement data time and time again. And she has become a leader within her PLC team. She has taken some of our conversations and our feedback conversations from her observation and shared that information and practice with her team, and that has began to transform the 3rd grade team to one of the strongest and most consistent teams within the building. My lowest performing teacher is my 5th grade teacher. She's in her 3rd year as well, and she is able to build very, very, very strong cultures within her classroom, extremely strong community within her classroom. And she struggles with planning for ELA because that is not her named, and she has named this several times, her greatest area of strength. So she is a bit resistant to following up with the action steps associated with planning and execution of ELA lesson planning. And from that, though, I have seen within the last 3 months more progress and growth as we continue to meet, and it's more of a relationship in which we work together as opposed to just providing an action step. A lot of our time consists of collaborative practice and follow up and immediate follow through and immediate reflection and immediate feedback, so that she is able to take those small pieces and implement them and adjust as needed. And there has been more progress that we've seen. If you were to ask either of them about our relationship, our coaching relationship, one thing I know that they will say is very supportive. I try and I hold myself to being available and accountable to their development and their time. So if that means having open office hours, being in their classrooms, providing them with the resources that they need. Also, I believe they would say very collaborative. In our developmental goals that we go over quarterly, it is a conversation, never a directive of this is what it's going to be. It is evidence-based. It is data provided. It's to the point where now most of them will ask, well, what did you see? What feedback did you see? How many students were doing this when I was doing this? So, and I also would say, one thing they would say is compassionate. So I do listen to my teachers. I am concerned about not just their selves as teachers, but them as individuals, as I value every individual in our building, just as I value our students. And they hold a ton of value. So I would be remiss if I did not tap into that and share myself with them, as well as be concerned and be present in their lives in terms of what I can do to support them in being healthy and ready for our babies every day.
All right, my last and final question will reflect on your own personal practice. Mm-hmm. What is the hardest feedback you've ever received? How did you implement it? And what is an area you still need to work on or learn more about?
The hardest feedback I've ever received has been that it was more of a misunderstanding in terms of what that feedback was, but it was feedback around being clear in terms of having conversations with other managers and other administrators in the building, and being clear and firm in that. And so from that feedback, it was I struggled to understand what that meant and what that looked like, as I had believed that I was taking all the actions necessary that had been shared with me previously through feedback from my coach and my colleagues. And so from that experience, I did learn that I needed to look deeper beyond what the feedback is actually saying, and look beyond the emotional aspect of it, but look at the behavioral changes that I needed to make adjustments in from start to finish, and understand and know that it is a process of growing each and every day. And it's very similar to how I work how I work with my teachers, that I have to take it piece by piece and not expect a change overnight. And so I'm still working to take large pieces of feedback and break them down into actionable steps that I can take each and every day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.